Hello, friends. In this episode, we will cover the most relevant news and events of the week. Let's start with the news from Asia. A heavy rainstorm hit Tokyo, which in just an hour led to flooding. Waterfalls and underpasses, flooded metro stations, platforms underwater, submerged streets, and manhole covers blown off by geysers. These are the apocalyptic scenes coming from the land of the rising sun. The Japan Meteorological Agency reported that the rainstorms began amid extremely unstable atmospheric conditions caused by a sharp rise in daytime temperatures. A flood warning was issued for the Shibuya and Furukawa rivers. In just a few hours, the water level in these rivers rose by 3 meters and 15 centimeters compared to the usual levels. Residents were asked to stay away from water bodies and, if possible, wait out the bad weather at home. Fortunately, there were no casualties or injuries. And now, viral footage that has spread across the internet and at first glance seems too crazy to be true. But it is indeed real. Filmed on August 17th on the island of Halmahera in Indonesia, the footage shows climbers ascending the summit of the active Dukono volcano. At that moment, an eruption begins. A wall of smoke and ash rolls over the tourists, and they must have realized just how ridiculously foolish it was to undertake the climb. As a result, climbers at an altitude of 1,335 meters have to flee for their lives. Meanwhile, a second group, located on the other side of the volcano, simply watches the unfolding events. Indonesian authorities have already temporarily closed the volcano to visitors. Fortunately, all tourists survived. Here's another epic video. It was filmed by climbers in the Himalayas on Mount Chagari, or as it is often called, K2. This is the second highest mountain peak in the world and the northernmost 8,000er on the planet. The footage captures the moment an avalanche descends on a campsite of tourists. A massive and fast-moving flow of snow rushes down the slope right towards the tents. It seems like disaster is inevitable, but the climbers are lucky. They are certainly hit by the snow wave, but it's not an avalanche flow that could have completely destroyed the campsite. No one has been reported injured so far. And by the way, the organizers of the ascent have not yet reported whether all the tourists decided to continue their climb or if anyone chose to turn back. And now let's move to Europe, where a volcanic eruption has split an island. The eruption of the Sirtnakor volcano began in Iceland, near the town of Grindavik. Authorities were forced to declare an evacuation not only of the town but also of an entire district. As a result of the magma eruption, a fissure 1.5 kilometers long appeared in the ground. But within 40 minutes, the length of the fissure increased to nearly 4 kilometers. You can now see on the screen what it looks like. Experts report that the volcanic lava is moving at a high speed of about 6 kilometers per hour. Nevertheless, there is hope that the peak of the eruption will pass within a couple of hours. Volcanologists note that so far the lava is not flowing toward Grindavik, but in the vicinity of Stormy, the wind is pushing clouds of smoke and gases toward the settlement. It is still unclear how far the lava will go. In general, we will wait for further details. Meanwhile, in the state of Connecticut in the USA, efforts are also underway to deal with the aftermath of flooding. Volunteers, military personnel, and rescuers are assisting local residents in clearing debris, restoring power, and re-establishing transportation links. The total damage caused by the disaster has not yet been announced. but preliminary estimates suggest it could reach tens of millions of dollars. For example, the situation in Oxford is described by the media as complete devastation. There is no communication, bridges are destroyed, roads are washed out, and buildings are flooded. Currently, there are reports of 2 fatalities. Emergency services continue to search for 2 more missing persons. A state of emergency remains in effect across the state. The hardest hit cities are Waterbury, Danbury, and Fairfield, where nearly 260 millimeters of precipitation fell within a few hours. Local residents say such conditions haven't been seen in about 200 years. Heavy rains are also affecting Europe. After a prolonged heat wave, Italy has been hit by downpours. There has been so much rainfall that several settlements in the northern part of the country are now underwater. Roads have been washed out, and there are reports of landslides and flooding of residential buildings. In less than an hour, the affected areas received an average of around 160 millimeters of precipitation. The Veneto region has been hit hardest by the severe weather. Authorities have declared a state of emergency, and residents of flooded homes are being evacuated urgently. Rescue teams are working around the clock, pumping out water, clearing fallen trees, and assisting residents of remote areas. Meteorologists forecast that a new, even stronger wave of precipitation may arrive in the next 24 hours. Italians are advised to avoid long trips and stay updated with emergency service announcements. Hundreds of those affected by the wildfire near Athens in Greece will receive compensation, while specific amounts have not yet been announced. It is known that the municipalities of the Greek capital will receive over €4.5 million from the government as subsidies to address the damage. The Ministry of Interior has already begun providing subsidies to 8 municipalities in Attica. Direct assistance is expected to be provided to individuals who lost their homes and entrepreneurs who lost their businesses during the fires that raged in Attica from August 11th to 13th. More than 100 buildings were destroyed or damaged, 146 residential homes, and 31 businesses. The number of burned vehicles is not yet known. The fire also destroyed 10,000 hectares of land. Flooding is also wreaking havoc in Yemen. The disaster has claimed the lives of 60 people, and 13 are still missing. According to local media, the total number of those affected by the disaster has reached 268,000 people. Torrential rains have caused damage to residential homes, major highways, and public infrastructure. Many locals complain that they were already living in poverty, and now they have been left without means of survival. All affected provinces are currently under the control of the Houthi rebel movement, either completely or partially. In the context of the ongoing civil war, the rebels are unable to provide an effective response to the crisis. Emergency services are not functioning, and there are no volunteers or military personnel available to assist the local population. These are scenes from Portugal, where a forest fire has been burning for the second week on Madeira. The fire has already destroyed more than 4,500 hectares of vegetation. Despite the efforts of the firefighters, the flames are currently spreading in 2 directions, towards the coastal highland of Ponta do Sol and into the central part of the mountain range. Fortunately, the fire has not yet reached residential areas. As for the firefighting efforts, the geography of the terrain is working against the rescuers. The fire is located in hard-to-reach areas. Authorities have decided to reinforce the team by sending additional support consisting of 76 firefighters. Firefighters from the neighboring Azores archipelago are also expected to arrive to assist. Heavy rain has continued in Sikkim, India, since last Sunday, triggering widespread landslides across the mountainous state. One major mud and rock slide was recorded near Singtam, where the local power station is located. The landslide destroyed part of the building and the road connecting it to the nearest settlement. According to media reports, 9 people are missing. Search operations for the missing are underway, along with efforts to clear debris and restore electricity. A front is moving across Poland, bringing heavy rains and storms. Streets in many Polish cities have been flooded, including the island of Wielkopolska. In Sieraj, a school has been flooded, and near Plock, a car was stuck on a submerged highway. The firefighters of Greater Poland received over 600 calls due to the heavy rain. The situation in the area is now under control, and the water that has entered the building basements is gradually being pumped out. Over the course of a day, an average of 90 liters of water fell per square meter. That's all for today. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated with the latest news, and see you next time.